I believe, I can't speculate what this judge's motivations are, personal motivations or otherwise.
Two independent DNA experts who have pored over key DNA evidence in the case since February filed their 144-page review of the DNA, crucial to Knox's appeal. And their findings seem to say,
I think that's almost the most important part, to remember that actually we need to find out what happened.
Come, sign your soul away.
We can't let the people know! We can't let the people know!
We are out of time. They don't even know it's coming. We are out of time. They don't even know it's coming.
Welcome to the sacrificed.
Did you kill Meredith Kircher?
No.
Were you there that night?
No.
Do you know anything you have not told police that you have not said in this book? Do you know anything?
No. I don't. I wasn't there.
No. I don't. I wasn't there.
Just weeks ago, Amanda Knox wrote on her blog that she loved the Italian way of life. An American exchange student in medieval Perugia, she had interesting courses, a good job, and an Italian boyfriend. Today, the 20-year-old from Seattle sits in this Italian jail, a prime suspect in the mysterious death of her roommate, British student Meredith Kircher. It's a tangled tale which Italian police are still trying to piece together. A horrific story of sex, drugs, and knives. But there are some facts.
On November 2nd, at this quaint hillside villa, just steps away from the university where both students attended, Meredith Kircher's lifeless body was found half naked, lying in a pool of blood with a stab wound on her neck.
Italy's media dubbed it a house of horrors. An investigating judge found the 21-year-old Kircher died fighting off a sexual assault, an assault involving not only her American roommate, but Amanda Knox's Italian boyfriend, Raffaele Sollecito, and Patrick Lumumba, a bar owner from the Congo. The judge's report said Knox and Sollecito had smoked hashish that evening, and then went to her house in search of Kircher and a new sexual experience. The judge said Lumumba was there too, seeking Knox's help in persuading Kircher to have sex with him. But Meredith Kircher rebuffed the advances and was slashed with a knife. She took 2 hours to die.
The last image I have to her is in front of the bar, give me a big smile and saying hi.
Esteban Pascual was a friend of Kircher. He owns a bar and is also close with another bar owner, Patrick Lumumba. He says Lumumba told him he wasn't at the house that night. But Amanda Knox told police it was Lumumba who killed Kircher. But later, her mother said Amanda had told her she wasn't even at the house that night. Even her lawyer claims it's difficult for him to determine the truth.
I found Amanda. Very nice.
Antonella Negri was one of Knox's language teachers. She says the American was very engaged, punctual, and well-liked. But there was another side to her.
I changed my mind. I thought maybe she has two lives.
Knox herself has shown a dark side. This hiker and yoga enthusiast posted a fictional short story involving drugs and rape on her blog. With the conflicting accounts of what happened that night, police are focusing their efforts on forensic evidence. A lab in Rome confirmed Thursday that a kitchen knife found in the apartment of Knox's Italian boyfriend contains traces of both Knox's DNA and DNA of the murdered student. Prosecutors tell CNN it could be the weapon that killed Meredith Kercher. Raffaele Sollecito's lawyer says the discovery does not implicate his client.
The knife in question is not the jackknife that was found on Sollecito when he was taken into custody.
Sollecito is a professed knife collector. Others taken from his apartment have not tested positive for DNA, according to prosecutors. He and Patrick Lumumba are also held in jail. All three maintain their innocence. A few weeks ago, Amanda Knox blogged that she was in one of her happiest places in life. For the mysterious American, her Italian boyfriend, a Congolese bar owner, and tragically, her British roommate, reality couldn't be more different.
What kind of girl was she in high school?
She's a little different. She's not heavy into being into the popular crowd, even though she was a huge, athlete and could have kind of joined that kind of crowd in high school. She didn't tend to do a huge amount of socializing in high school, except in those small groups. She didn't go to the football games and hang out a lot because that wasn't interesting for her. But working on a musical or
spending hours working on musicals.
Amanda's the kindest person I know, and she'll do anything to make people happy, and she cares about everyone else before herself. All she could talk about was like, I can't wait to get to Perugia, I can't wait to get to Perugia. I was like, relax, Amanda.
What did she tell you about the roommates, and in particular Meredith, and how they were getting along?
Everything seemed to be meshing just fine. I mean, they got along great.
Yeah.
When did you hear first something had happened?
She goes, I'm back at my house. I want you to tell me. I want you. At first, I know I'm okay. And I said, okay, what's going on? And she said, well, I was at Raphael's last night, and I've come home now, and I think somebody's been in my house. And she told me, we can't find Meredith. We can't get a hold of Meredith. And her room is locked. And I said, hang up and call the police.
So you headed out, and at what point in that trip, because it was during that trip, did you learn that Amanda had gone from being a witness to being a suspect?
I got a call when my flight out of Phoenix was canceled. And so I knew I wanted to get there quickly. And so when I got to Switzerland, my husband called me and said, there's reporters all over the house. They say they've arrested Amanda. And I said, what? And so, yeah, it was a horrible time. I just wandered around the Swiss airport for hours and hours and hours and hours, waiting to get on a plane to find out what was going on, because nobody knew anything.
Amanda could never hurt someone, ever. Like, she can't hurt an insect. There's no way that she could hurt another human being who is her friend. There's no doubt in my mind that she could not do this.
American student Amanda Knox and her former Italian boyfriend, Raffaele Sollecito, were back in court Saturday. The pair is facing charges of sexual violence and the murder of British student Meredith Kercher. Both have denied all wrongdoing. Meantime, the jury inspected the apartment in Perugia. It's here where police discovered the body of 21-year-old Kercher in a pool of blood in her bedroom in November 2007. She had been stabbed in the neck and sexually assaulted. Prosecutors say Kercher's attackers broke the window from inside in a clumsy attempt to fake a break-in. A third person, Rudy Herman Gayday, was already convicted of Kercher's murder in a separate fast-track trial. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison, but also denied wrongdoing.
Rudy Herman Gayday was already convicted of Kercher's murder in a separate fast-track trial.
He was sentenced to 30 years in prison, but also denied wrongdoing.
Police procedures projected onto a screen drew an audible gasp from the packed courtroom.
I think there was some surprise and some amusement from some people in court as to the sort of bungled initial police operation.
A crucial piece of evidence was dropped on the floor to be photographed, then lost, only to be retrieved 46 days later.
A crucial piece of evidence was dropped on the floor to be photographed, then lost, only to be retrieved 46 days later.
Video like this showed officers walking unsupervised through the crime scene. One officer handled evidence with dirty gloves.
Video like this showed officers walking unsupervised through the crime scene. One officer handled evidence with dirty gloves.
All this and more led independent forensic scientists appointed by the court to label the prosecution's DNA evidence as contaminated and unreliable. Amanda Knox showed no reaction, but her defense team felt she finally had her day in court.
We were not surprised because we knew that many of the scientific evidence were not reliable, that the protocol were not respected.
The most damaging testimony to the prosecution's case concerned the alleged murder weapon. The knife retrieved from Knox's boyfriend's apartment did not, in the view of the scientists, have any DNA material from the victim on the blade, as the prosecution had insisted.
American student Amanda Knox, her Italian boyfriend, and a third man were initially convicted for the murder of Meredith Kircher. Evidence used by Italian prosecutors to support the initial guilty verdict included DNA material from the crime scene. DNA from both the victim and Knox's boyfriend were found on the murder weapon. Missing items from the victim's handbag were used by the defense as evidence there had been a robbery. DNA from Knox's Italian boyfriend and the third man was collected from the victim's body, as well as from bloody footprints on the victim's bra. Knox said she found blood in a bathroom she shared with the victim. Knox said she found more blood in a second bathroom and feces in an unflushed toilet. Prosecutors did not find exculpatory evidence in a supposed break and entering in another room in the house where the victim was killed. As well as DNA evidence, prosecutors used witness testimony of a couple who saw a black man running away from the house and a neighbor who overheard a scream and the sound of two people running along the street. Another man testified he had seen Knox and her boyfriend in a nearby park around the time of the murder.
How do you feel about the way they keep coming after you, and why do you think it is that they simply don't want to believe the version of events that you and Amanda have put forward?
No, well, it's not just my version of the events or Amanda's version of the events. It's the real facts that tells that me and Amanda are innocent. I don't know what is going on in the mind of the judges, and I just think that in the Italian system there's something really wrong in the way in the rules that sometimes they are not respected or they are turned to hurt people, and they can hurt actually innocent people.
You'd only known Amanda Knox about a week when this happened. I mean, do you wish, with hindsight, that you'd never laid eyes on her, that you had never become embroiled in such a lurid crime scandal as it's become?
Yes, well, basically, nobody will ever stay in a situation like mine. My life now is a hell, but it's not Amanda's fault, this situation. It's, this situation is a fault inside the investigation at first sight and inside a prosecution that didn't want to admit their faults.
When the retrial began, the court ordered a new test on a knife that was found in your kitchen, which had DNA on it. What do you know about that knife?
Well, basically, in my opinion, just logically, it's ridiculous that anybody will bring such a big knife from my house to another house. But upon on that, in the investigation, the forensic science found that there's amide on the blade, and there's no trace of blood or nothing about Meredith's Kircher DNA. Even if the prosecution say something different, but it was contaminated because they didn't respect the protocols when they picked up that knife.
Yeah, I mean, final question for you, Raffaele. I know Meredith Kircher's father. I used to work with him a bit in England, and they've suffered enormously from what has happened, obviously, to their daughter. Although you describe your life as hellish, and Amanda has used similar terminology for her life now. Obviously, you're both still alive, and you have your lives. What is your message to Meredith Kircher's family?
Basically, I feel a lot of compassion for their situation, and it's horrible because their daughter is no more in this world. But I'm not responsible of that. Me and Amanda, we have nothing to do with this crime, and what I really want is that we don't need in this tragedy more victims. Meredith have been horrible, murdered, and if it came to my sister, I will get crazy as well. But I'm just begging to look at the real facts and the truth about this case.
This may be Italy's trial of the century, but it is Amanda Knox's freedom and the rest of her life that is at stake.
Amanda Knox entered court today greeted by a crush of photographers and reporters from around the world.
The 21-year-old smiled briefly at her family, but otherwise looked serious and tense as she waited for court to begin. After 5 months of the prosecution laying out its case, today marked the start of the defense, the star witness, the defendant herself. She began her testimony in English, describing the scene at the Perugia police station and why she signed a statement implicating herself, a statement she now says is false.
Under the amount of pressure of everyone yelling at me and having them tell me that they were going to put me in prison for protecting somebody, at a certain point
A un certo momento.
I couldn't understand why they were so sure that I was the one who knew everything.
Non potevo.
And so, in my confusion,
E quindi nella mia confusione.
I started to imagine.
Ho iniziato a immaginare.
That maybe I was traumatized, like what they said.
Knox told the judges and the jury that police hit her on the head and called her a stupid liar. Just feet away watching was Amanda's father, Kurt Knox. He said that after a year and a half behind bars, she is eager to tell her story.
People are going to get a different picture of who Amanda really is. She is just a regular kid, not this dark angel or whatever it is they want to call her.
On the stand, Amanda appeared to be composed and confident, at least with the initial questions, in which she admitted that she did occasionally smoke pot with friends here in Perugia, as many of these college students do when they come here. But she became flustered when they got to the very disputed statement that she gave to police, that overnight interrogation, the grueling interrogation. And that is the heart of the matter, Robin. It took them only 10 minutes to get to that statement.
And who's questioning her?
Well, that's interesting you bring that up, because it's neither the prosecution nor the defense, but the lawyer for somebody who's pressing a civil action lawsuit for slander, Patrick Lumumba. In her statement that she gave to police that night, she fingered him as the possible suspect, the murder suspect, and said he was at the murder scene that night. His lawyer, a very hostile lawyer, is doing the questioning right now before the defense or the prosecution even takes a stab.
And in your report, Elizabeth, you said that she started her testimony in English, but she then she transitioned to Italian?
Right. We just came out of the courtroom a few moments ago, and she has now switched to Italian just in the last few minutes. She was clearly showing a lot of irritation and frustration with the translator sitting next to her. She had wanted to testify in Italian because she is quite fluent at it, and she's now switched.
Yeah,
clearly showing a lot of irritation and frustration with the translator sitting next to her. She had wanted to testify in Italian because she is quite fluent at it, and she's now switched.
He said he and a friend of his went to Meredith's house that night. They had met a few days earlier in a club, and they went to her house, but it was not planned. When she saw them, she was a little surprised by their presence, but invited them into the house. They all made themselves comfortable in a room, and they immediately started to caress and touch her, but she was completely against this. Rudy himself asked her explicitly if she wanted to have a threesome sexual relationship. The girl was very frightened. Rudy went to the bathroom, where he was for 10-15 minutes. When he came back, he found a completely different scenario. He found the girl with her back on the ground and this guy who was holding her by the arms. He was on his knees with his legs wide on top of the girl and was masturbating, while his friend kept holding her with her back to the ground. Then Rudy took the position of his friend. He told me then he held her as she was on her knees, holding her by the arms and with a knee on her back. At a certain point, the guy takes out a knife, and Rudy described the knife. It was a pocket knife and had an ivory handle, and it was pointed towards her. Pointing it towards the girl, she accidentally wounded herself. Rudy tried to find something to stop the bleeding. When Rudy turns, the guy said they had to finish her off, or this prostitute would make them rot in hell. But the guy continued to strike her many times. The girl was lying on the ground, and Rudy continued to hold a cloth to her neck. The guy ran away first. Rudy, meanwhile, stayed there until he saw the girl had stopped breathing. Then he too took off.
Why do you think that this judge goes further than any other? That not only does he say this is the knife, not only does he say that you had it because of DNA around the bottom of the blade and the hilt, but that he believes you are the one who actually killed Meredith Kocher.
I believe, I can't speculate what this judge's motivations are, personal motivations or otherwise. What I can say is that as this case has progressed, the evidence that the prosecution has claimed exists against me has been proven less and less and less. And all that has happened is that they've filled these holes with speculation. My DNA, any trace of me is not there. When you're talking about traces of me that they attribute to the crime scene, they're talking about my DNA in my own bathroom. My footsteps that tested negative for blood, that had my DNA and Meredith's DNA on the floor between our bedrooms and the bathroom, Well, of course our DNA was there. We lived there for a month. It was there. It tested negative for blood, so it wasn't blood. And so it's irrelevant to the crime. But we're talking about the crime that happened in Meredith's bedroom, and there is no trace of us. If Rudy Gaudet committed this crime, if Rudy Gaudet committed this crime, which he did, we know that because his DNA is there on Meredith's body, around Meredith's body, his handprints and footprints in her blood. None of that exists for me. And if I were there, I would have had traces of Meredith's broken body on me, and I would have left traces of myself.
Hi, I'm Amanda Knox. You ready to talk to me yet?
Come out, you black and tan, come out and fight me like a man. Come out, you black and tan, come out and fight me like a man.
Come out, you black and tan, come out and fight me.
Like a man.
Throughout the day, as deliberations wore on, Amanda Knox's family anxiously waited in a hotel near the courthouse. They tried their best to relieve the tension, Amanda's mother and sister singing some of Amanda's favorite songs, including the one that has become Amanda's anthem of late, the Beatles' Let It Be.
Words of wisdom, let it be.
Amanda! Finally, Amanda Knox was led into this packed medieval courtroom to hear the judge pronounce her verdict.
Per quanto riguarda Amanda Knox,
Amanda and her former boyfriend, Raffaele Sollecito, guilty of the murder of 21-year-old Meredith Kircher. Amanda was sentenced to 26 years in prison. Outside the courtroom, the crowds were cheering. Inside, the family was sobbing. Quickly, the Knoxes left the courthouse, devastated by the verdict. It was a stunning twist in the ordeal that began more than 2 years ago when Amanda's younger sister, Deanna, shot this video as Amanda made her way to Perugia to fulfill a dream, studying Italian in this city, famous for its chocolates and its university.
Are you excited to go visit where you're going to live in Italy? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to actually getting a place to live. It's the big thing that's on my mind right now. It's actually kind of paranoid for me.
Deanna helped Amanda find this cottage overlooking the hills surrounding town. It was to be shared with 3 roommates, including British co-ed Meredith Kircher, who was also fulfilling her dream of a year abroad. But on the night of November 2nd, 2007, her other roommates away for a holiday, Meredith Kircher was brutally murdered in her bedroom, her throat slashed, her half-naked body found under a duvet. For Amanda Knox, the nightmare was just beginning. Within days, Amanda and Raffaele were arrested.
When police arrived here that Friday
And from the start, the Italian and the British press vilified Amanda, seizing on the young lover's supposedly suspect behavior, kissing outside the murder scene, buying so-called sexy lingerie at a local store just a day after the murder.
The media in Italy has demonized her.
Theodore Simon is an American defense attorney who specializes in international law.
How does a young college exchange student who has no prior record, who has no violence in her background, within a couple of weeks somehow transforms themselves into being a horrific, bloody murderer?
It's just not feasible. Anybody who knows Amanda, knows her character, her true character, will tell you it's not possible. It's not her.
At first, the prosecutors spun a theory that Amanda, Raffaele, and a local man, Rudy Gaudet, viciously murdered Meredith during a drug-fueled sex orgy that went horribly wrong. But in closing arguments last week, the prosecutor introduced a brand new motive, that Amanda was angry with her roommate. The two girls got into a fight over money, he said, and Amanda slit Meredith's throat with a kitchen knife.
La condanna di Amanda Knox alla pena dell'ergastolo.
Prosecutor Giuliani Menini requested a life sentence and 9 months of daytime solitary confinement. Amanda was allowed to address the court in Italian, calling the prosecution's theory pure fantasy.
Meredith era mia amica e non la odiavo.
Meredith was my friend, she said, and I didn't hate her. Former prosecutor John Q. Kelly has examined the evidence in the Knox case.
The final animation by the prosecution has these two men who don't even know each other holding either side of Meredith, while Amanda, who is by all accounts friendly with Meredith, except for arguments over maybe like cleaning up dishes in the sink or something like that, is brutally murdering her. There's no motive for that.
You're left with a video that is little more than Alice in Wonderland of what may or may not have happened. There was simply no evidence of any sort that links Amanda Knox to the crime scene. There was no DNA, no footprint, no fingerprint, no fiber.
Amanda and her parents have gotten a hard lesson in the Italian legal system. Her case was decided by a jury of 2 judges and 6 local residents who were not screened for any bias.
The lead judge, if there is a tie, 4-4, gets a second vote. And you can have a verdict that is 5-4 on a murder charge.
Just a mere majority.
That is correct.
There were more than 40 hearings and 150 witnesses. One of them was Amanda herself. She told the jury she was hit by police before signing a statement that she had a vision she was there the night of the murder and heard screams.
They were treating me so badly and didn't understand why.
At all other times, Amanda has insisted she wasn't at the murder scene.
Amanda was interrogated for almost 40 hours without counsel, the last 15 hours almost straight through, and she didn't confess. The worst thing she said she did, worst case scenario, had she been there, she said, I covered my ears, you know, if Meredith was screaming. That's what I would have done. That's what I did do if I was there. Nothing else.
And what about the evidence? The prosecution said it had a knife with Meredith and Amanda's DNA on it, found in Raffaele's kitchen.
They said the amount was so small and the density so weak, they couldn't even positively identify it as Meredith's. It just defies logic. It's the only thing they have, and it defies any sort of explanation.
In the end, the defense said it would have been impossible for Amanda to clean up her own DNA and yet leave behind all the DNA belonging to the one man who's already convicted of the crime, Rudy Gaudet. Gaudet is now appealing his 30-year sentence.
Could Amanda and Raffaele have been in there and stabbed her and not left?
Impossible. When you're involved with someone in a violent struggle, especially when there's a lot of blood involved, you leave evidence there and you take evidence with you. They did not find one scintilla of Amanda's evidence of having ever been in that room. These kids, in my mind, at least in my opinion, are clearly innocent.
We've talked a lot over the last few weeks and even the last few years, obviously, about how things work differently in the Italian justice system. And when it comes to an appeal, we've heard a lot that Amanda Knox could have a much better chance at an appeal there than she would in the United States. Give us an idea. What are people saying who have been following this closely, and as you've been following it, what's the prediction on the outcome here?
It's very interesting. Italian journalists who, for so many years, reported that Amanda Knox was a she-devil now tell me that they believe she will be acquitted. There's almost a sense of embarrassment here because the case has completely fallen away. There was never any real DNA evidence, no reliable eyewitnesses. One of the chief witnesses was a homeless heroin addict. This case is a national obsession. Here in Italy, it was broadcast on national television today, and with the sensational claims of a satanic sex orgy gone wrong, this case has consumed everyone here
ever since it began 4 years ago. It's September 2007, and 20-year-old Seattleite Amanda Knox travels to Perugia, Italy, a city known for welcoming foreigners. On November 2nd, the body of Amanda's British roommate, 21-year-old Meredith Kircher, is discovered behind a locked door. Her throat has been slashed. Images of Amanda with her boyfriend, Raffaele Sollecito, taken just outside the murder scene, and the next day at a lingerie store, were used to define and condemn her. During 50 hours of questioning over 4 days, including an all-night interrogation involving 36 officers, Amanda finally implicated herself, signing a statement saying she was in the house when her boss, local bar owner Patrick Lumumba, killed Meredith Kircher. Knox, Sollecito, and Lumumba were all arrested. When prosecutor Giuliano Menini first theorized that Kircher had been murdered in a ritualistic satanic sex orgy, the tabloid press in Italy and Great Britain went into overdrive. Damning photographs of Amanda and Raffaele are discovered on the internet, spun to suggest a fascination with violence. Then there was Amanda's MySpace nickname, Foxy Knoxy, which authorities claimed was proof of her promiscuity. After Patrick Lumumba is released, he had an airtight alibi. An international manhunt leads to the arrest of Rudy Gaudet, a local hanger-on who once confronted a man with a knife. Gaudet's fingerprint and DNA were found in Kircher's room. He is tried first and convicted of murder in 2008. In January 2009, on the eve of her trial for murder and sexual assault, Amanda is oddly voted Woman of the Year by Italian television. Italians are outraged when Amanda appears in court smiling and wearing an All You Need Is Love t-shirt on Valentine's Day. DNA evidence is presented that the prosecution claims proves Amanda is a killer. She and Raffaele are convicted of murder. Amanda is sentenced to 26 years in prison. This past summer, during her appeal trial, a scientific panel appointed by the court finds that the DNA used to convict Amanda is unreliable. Key witnesses, including this homeless heroin addict, are discredited. Later today, after 4 years, Amanda Knox, a woman portrayed as a she-devil, will learn her fate. And you can't make this stuff up. If she is found not guilty, we are told by her family they will get her out of Italy as quickly as possible. Exactly how is a well-kept secret.
Well, I was already imprisoned there for 4 years as an innocent person. So knowing that that is possible, well, I was already imprisoned there for 4 years as an innocent person. So knowing that that is possible, no.
Kircher's father believes the drama over Knox's conviction and ultimate acquittal overshadowed the loss of his daughter. As Peter Van Zandt reports, John Kircher is now telling his side of the story in a soon-to-be-released book.
Meredith Kircher, featured in this music video, was just 21 years old when her body was discovered in the house she shared with Amanda Knox in Perugia, Italy. In an excerpt from his new book, published in London's Daily Mail newspaper, her father, John Kircher, complains that the world has focused far too much on Amanda. He writes, "Meredith was a beautiful, intelligent, and caring girl whom everyone loved, and her story deserves to be told." John Kircher, who didn't attend the retrial of Amanda Knox and her former boyfriend, Raffaele Sollecito, wrote the book on his own. Kircher was divorced from Meredith's mother more than 10 years ago. "It's all been about Knox, not justice for my daughter," Kircher writes. Knox and Sollecito were found not guilty of Meredith Kircher's murder last October in a verdict watched around the world. The next day, the Kircher family reacted to the decision.
We do find that we are now left, obviously, looking at this again and thinking how a decision that was so certain 2 years ago has been so emphatically overturned now.
John Kircher writes, "We knew Meredith had not got on with Knox." After Knox was arrested, Kircher writes, "The alibis of Knox and Solecito kept changing. There have been books written about Knox, and there was a TV movie. And next year, Amanda Knox will release her own account of her ordeal, a book deal reportedly worth nearly $4 million. John Kircher's book includes his desperate attempts to reach his daughter once news spread in the British media that a female British student has been found murdered in Perugia. I called Meredith. The phone rings on, and still there is no answer. Eventually, a reporter calls John Kircher. I shall never forget her words. The name going around Italy, she says, is Meredith."
And Peter Van Zandt joins us in the studio. That had to be an awful feeling if you've got a daughter who is overseas in Italy and the name is Meredith. You're thinking, oh no, what a terrible... The way he writes about it, I thought was very, very heartbreaking.
It was very poignant, and John Kircher was very close to his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
She was on a dream academic semester in Italy to learn the language, and to have this happen, it's the classic every parent's nightmare.
Now, he writes that the two women didn't get along. And during the trial, and we heard from Amanda Knox herself and from Amanda's family, that was not true, that they actually got along pretty well.
And I do think the truth is somewhere in between. The two of them had gone to a chocolate festival in the brief weeks that they'd known each other, and just 2 days before she was murdered, Meredith and Amanda Knox were out for a night on the town. So they were friends. They had roommate issues from time to time, but there was nothing malicious there.
And as you point out, they hadn't been roommates very long. What was it, 2 months maybe?
Just a few weeks.
And as you point out, they hadn't been roommates very long. What was it, 2 months maybe?
Just a few weeks.
Lyle, Stephanie, let me ask you first of all what you made of the verdict last night.
I think deep down I thought it was going to go that way. Obviously I had no way of really knowing that, bearing in mind that was the initial decision, which was then acquitted and obviously overturned. And I think I said to people at the time, going into this we were well aware that there would be a counter appeal no matter what last night's decision was, which is why I was perhaps a bit nonplussed when the actual decision came out. And the other thing of course for us is, although Stephanie has some Italian language background, I don't, and in that courtroom it's obviously all very tense, it's read out very quickly. And it actually takes a few seconds for us, or me personally, to even get a translation of what a decision is. So.
And Stephanie, what do you make of Amanda Knox saying already, there's no way I'm coming back to Italy, they'll have to drag me off kicking and screaming?
I think we're in a difficult position at the moment because there are so many steps in this system that it's not been confirmed, it's not the end, and as Lyle said, it could have gone either way yesterday, and I was quite prepared for that, especially seeing as it will go to another level again. However, without knowing what the final answer is going to be, it's difficult to know how anyone's going to feel or react, and really when it comes down to it, if they are found guilty at the very end of the case and she doesn't come back here, then that's going to be for Italy and America to kind of decide what they're going to do with that, because as Lyle said previously, if they're convicted and they are guilty of murder, they need to be somewhere, not just free in America or Italy.
It must be difficult for you though. This has been going on the best part of 7 years now, and still it's not over.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've said before that the way that Meredith was killed is obviously horrific. We've not really had a chance to properly grieve her because of this whole process has been going on so long. There's obviously been so much tension on the defendants and the case itself, rather than Meredith as the victim. And yeah, absolutely, the fact that it's in a foreign country, a lot of it's obviously in a foreign language, we're having to read interpretations of stuff secondhand, and on top of that, the fact that it's been, as you say, sort of knocking on into 7 years now, and the next verdict in this is going to be spring 2015. Makes it very difficult for us to sort of, finally draw a line under things and move on.
Meanwhile, of course, Meredith Kircher, your sister, is almost forgotten, as you say, in all of this. It's all become about Amanda Knox particularly. If she gets to see this, what would you say to her?
I don't know that we have anything specific to say to anyone that's in question at the moment. But in general, with regards to you saying about Meredith being forgotten, I think she has been forgotten very much so in this case, because it does very much focus on the trial rather than the victim at the moment. However, there are a lot of people out there who still send messages, still donate to the fund, still talk about her. We're very much in touch with Meredith's friends, and as a family we all remember her together. So she's definitely not forgotten, but I think that the focus has been shifted in the case and in the media from actually, as Lyle said, how horrific this crime is, what's actually happened to Mez, the fact she was only 21, and it could happen to someone else just as easily. I think that's almost the most important part, to remember that actually we need to find out what happened.
Per quanto riguarda Amanda Knox.
This was the scene when American college student Amanda Knox was convicted for violently killing her British roommate Meredith Kircher while studying abroad in Italy.
Knox and her former boyfriend were found guilty.
Amanda Knox found guilty of murder in Perugia, Italy.
Found guilty of sexually assaulting and killing Miss Kircher.
Pure chaos amidst cheers and outrage in Perugia, Italy. A nightmare come true for Knox's family. Just an hour after hearing his daughter's 26-year prison sentence, Knox's father, Kurt, and her sister, Deanna, were overwhelmed.
I think those of us who have family members who have children couldn't help but wonder what it was like that moment, standing in that courtroom tonight and hearing that word, guilty.
I collapsed shaking.
It's not what anybody wants to experience. It's terrible.
Knox has lived in an Italian prison since her arrest nearly 4 years ago, as has her then Italian boyfriend Raffaele Sollecito, who was also convicted for the brutal murder. For the past 6 months, a new panel of Italian judges and jurors are hearing Knox's appeal, which she hopes will overturn her conviction. And finally, today there is a glimmer of hope for Amanda and her family. 2 independent DNA experts who have pored over key DNA evidence in the case since February filed their 144-page review of the DNA, crucial to Knox's appeal. And their findings seem to support Amanda's defense. The report states that DNA traces on 2 key pieces of evidence were too tiny to be tested, and that proper procedures were not followed. The evidence in question, the victim's bra clasp that was said to contain DNA of Sollecito, and the alleged murder weapon, the kitchen knife found in Sollecito's apartment with the victim's DNA on it. Knox's family and lawyers have always argued the DNA was contaminated, and even asked for an independent DNA review during Knox's trial. That request was denied. Today's independent review even stated, quote, "It cannot be ruled out that the result obtained may stem from contamination." The reports confirm what American DNA expert Greg Hampikian told us earlier this year after reviewing the evidence.
Each time you handle something, even if you have gloves on, you are increasing the chance of contamination. If you're really being careful, you're changing gloves after each touch of a piece of evidence. They're clearly, from the video anyway, it doesn't seem that they're doing that. So they're wearing gloves, but they're touching multiple things.
The news was huge for both Knox and Sollecito, and critical in their chance for freedom. Knox heard the news on the television in her prison cell.
She's extremely happy. She knew she was innocent, but having independent experts say that the DNA evidence is unreliable and potentially contaminated is a big step towards bringing her home.
I was thrilled. I was, worried for Amanda and how she was hearing and how she was reacting.
Amanda's mother, Etta Mellis, got the news today in Italy.
I was able to speak to the priest in jail who was there when she heard the news. He said you could see the light in her eyes and she could finally breathe for the first time in over 3 years.
Knox's defense also says a key in their appeal is that there is no DNA at all from Knox in the bedroom where the murder happened.
Nowhere in Meredith's room where the murder took place and where Meredith's body was found is there a single fingerprint from Amanda, a single piece of DNA from Amanda, a hair.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Judy Bacharach is a journalist who has covered the case from the start.
I was pretty positive when I started working on the Amanda Knox story that she was guilty. But as I examined the so-called evidence against her, and as I examined the judge's words particularly, I became convinced that she is not guilty. Absolutely convinced. This was a railroad job.
But there is plenty of DNA from this man, Rudy Gaudet, a local drifter and the third person convicted for the murder of Meredith Kircher. Gaudet's bloody handprints seen here on the wall of the crime scene, his saliva on the victim, and his fingerprints on her bra.
There is lots of DNA, and there are fingerprints from Rudy Gaudet. There is none from Amanda Knox.
Gaudet himself admitted he was in the cottage that Kircher shared with Knox the night she was killed, but did not participate in the crime. This week, Gaudet took the stand in an appeal hearing to address claims by fellow inmates that he told them Knox and Sollecito were not in the house that fatal night. But Gaudet insisted their claims are not true.
I was hoping that Rudy would actually own up to his responsibility and essentially tell the court that Amanda and Raphael had nothing to do with it.
Ultimately, the truth may simply come down to science.
I think the story of how this crime was committed doesn't fit the evidence collected.
Please, you guys.
Knox's family has defended her and visited her in prison since day one.
You know, no matter how you look at it, this isn't going to be over anytime soon. How do you continue on through
You have to
that knowledge?
You stay focused on Amanda and making sure that that light is there for her. And you just work through it. You just have to. I mean, you're not going to leave an innocent daughter in a foreign prison.
For Knox and her family, the emotional and financial toll, more than $1 million to date, are nearly too much to bear.
Can you ever really go back to life as it was after what you've been through?
You know, none of us is ever going to be the same, but we'll all make a new normal and just kind of